one more amendment. Okay, we're live.
Great, thank you. I would like to call to order the April 8th, 2020 regular meeting of the Keo Island Planning Commission being held via video conferencing. Mr. Reynolds, could you call the roll?
Mr. Peterson,
Here.
Mr. Dowdy,
Here.
Mr. Capelli,
Here.
Mr. Iwan,
Here.
Mr. Moffett,
Here.
Ms. Messerman,
Here.
Mr. Stinson.
Here.
Thank you. I see we're all here. The first item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from our February 5th meeting under tab 1. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Mr. Capelli and seconded by Ms. Messerman. Are there any comments, changes, corrections to these minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Or should we call the roll, Stephanie? Maybe we should do it one by one. I vote aye.
Okay, you want me to do it roll call vote, Mr. Peterson?
Yes, please, Petra.
Okay, Mr. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Dowdy,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. Iwan,
Aye.
Mr. Moffett,
Aye.
Ms. Messerman,
Aye.
Mr. Stinson.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next, we have no old business today. We have one item of new business. Mr. Taylor, if you want to take over.
Yes, I am going to share my screen now so you all can see the presentation. If you do have questions, feel free to kind of stop me as I go through. But this should be popping up soon. Everyone able to see those slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Okie doke. So our application today is a preliminary subdivision plat. Application number SBD 20-000004. The applicant KRA and the surveyor Southeastern Land Surveying LLC. This is in reference to parcels out in Ocean Park, also known as Phase 8B. Or commonly the common name Little Bear, specifically lots 474 through 477, and additionally lot 366. The property is zoned R2. Like I said, this is out in Ocean Park, and 3 lots are being proposed for this area towards the eastern end of the island. The subject property, the 3 lots are total about just under 4 acres or 3.5, just under 3.5 acres. And we have also in this particular application, the adjustment or transfer of linear shoreline authorization through the key location docs for that. And I'll explain that in a few moments. But the 3 lots there on a cul-de-sac, they're at the end of Little Bear Island, or Little Bear Way rather. And so there are approximately just under 20 acres of marshlands and approximately 3.4 acres of highlands there of the total parcel. In your materials, you also have the Ocean Park Phase 8A that was approved, and I included this in your materials so that you're able to see where the existing key location doc exists for number 35. This is where the proposed transfer of authorized shoreline would be added to key location number 35. In the ordinance under that key location, dock ordinance, specifically section 12-78 dock key locations, undeveloped properties where that plating is not complete, the authorization of can be shifted from a trade-off, if you will, from one key location to another. And so this proposal is asking to request that key location 24, some of that be transferred to key location 35. Key location 24 is Cougar Island West here, and then which is right at the beginning sort of there of the Ocean Park Inn. And then key location 35 is just as you see at the far east end of the island. What I also want to show is what the applicant has included in their materials is a sort of a sketch or diagram that would show where that particular key location would be. And this is just done through GIS, but the more definitive will be laid out once plating is completed. But essentially 549 linear feet would be transferred to that key location number 35. Are there any questions so far on key location?
John, this is Larry Iwan. The question I have is the lot or key location 24, is that property still undeveloped, owned by the developer, or is it somebody else? Does somebody else have to okay this?
No, so the portion that would be removed from this particular would be undeveloped. And here, I'm gonna see if I can utilize this tool here.
Well, Ray, you could chime in, but I believe this is the community dock area.
Yes, it is, along with an adjacent lot 113 that has a single dock. The length that's being transferred is along the shoreline where there were no docks planned, sort of west of where the sewage pump station is. And so that length, you might say the westernmost part of key location 24 was never utilized for docks.
Okay, oh, so you're saying the west portion, okay.
Yeah.
So it's still under your control. Okay.
Correct.
And so by making this change, then you relinquish the right to have any docks in that key location 24 at any point, because you're moving that linear footage. Is that how that works?
Yes, as John was explaining, it's written into the ordinance that we can add up to 49% of length of the existing key location, and that's what we've proposed to do.
Okay, thank you.
Essentially, what you've done is you transferred the portion that runs right alongside the road and left
Correct.
still available areas that further west and further east.
Well, I would say it's the area kind of west of the pump station. Yeah, obviously, we utilized it for the community dock and then the neighboring lot at 113, but we didn't utilize any of the leftover key location length along that part of the shoreline.
That's still available, though, wouldn't it be, as a key location? Or has
Yes.
that been? Okay.
Okay, John, if
So
you want to
essentially,
continue.
except the road, fronts the road.
Was that Mr.
Correct.
Peterson?
Well, Andy, where it fronts the road and further to the west where they don't plan to have any docks.
That's still available, though. That hasn't
Not
been
if they
transferred, I don't believe.
But the plan is to transfer that's west of the pump station, transfer that linear footage to this new location, correct?
Yes,
All of it?
549 feet.
All right.
Yeah, it would be a portion of that 24, key location number 24. So the entire key location number 24 wouldn't go away, but there would be 549 feet of that transferred to key location number 35.
So just we've identified lot 111 and a lot 113. 111 is the community dock.
That's correct.
Okay, and that'll stay. The dock's already there. And 113 is a private lot, and that already has a dock. And making this transfer, which is probably is coming from the west of it, does not affect those two docks.
Correct.
Ray, once you finish transferring the 400, you still basically have 200 authorized for 24. Would that be the portion of the space available from the west side?
Well, I think there would be more left than 200. I know John included in his total presentation there the existing table that's in the ordinance. And as things
Right.
stand right now, you know, it's key location 24. There's 1,150 linear feet. So obviously the remainder after you subtract the 459 is what will still exist there.
Yeah, 601 feet.
Yeah, it'd be 601.
But isn't that key location limited to two docks, two floating docks?
Well, if you look at the table, it suggests that it's still, the status of that key location is still undeveloped. You know, it says to be determined. I think with this action, it would be fair to say that it's now all been determined. And, you know, this key location could convert to just simply stating, you know, what particular properties are key locations. And once the transfer is complete, much like many of the other key locations in the table, there's no longer any usable link. It just, the key location appears to adjust to simply naming discrete properties that have key location status. John, I don't know if you can
Yeah,
put that table up.
I can share that table just a moment here.
So you're saying, Ray, that under key location 24, we would say two lots, and it'd be 111 and 113.
Correct.
Okay.
Ray, of the 400 that was utilized, it's 113 in the community dock. Is that the two locations? Of the
Right.
400? And now you're going to transfer 549. So that leaves, of the 1150, it leaves about 200.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that is west of the area we're transferring?
Yeah, I guess essentially the pump station does not need, you know, there's no prospect of a dock and there's no prospect of a dock along the roadway. So that we can only transfer up to the limitation in the ordinance, the 50%. So wherever 400 or 549 feet could be measured, that's the length that's being transferred.
So hypothetically, you'd be able, whatever the residue is, 200 feet or whatever, 300 feet, whatever it is, you could transfer that at some other point to another key location. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
This is the table that's been referred to that shows it to be determined. So that right now, speaking of key location number 24, Cougar Island West, it's listed at 1,150. So at the determination, if this were granted, then that would be reflected in that furthest rightmost column. As others, you'll see the specific address or the specific lot number identified with which authorized docks are located for that particular key location. Currently under 35, it shows that same thing, where there's still an authorized 1,100, and that would be proposed to be increased by the addition of the 549.
John, just for administratively then, what would show 2 docks, and then what would lot 111 have the residue assigned to it that you could clip off at some other point in time?
Can you repeat that?
Since you're going to identify which 2 docks are, which 2 lots have those docks authorized, then you would the residue of what was not transferred would remain with lot 111.
It would be determined how much remaining authorized shore feet, and then depending on the specifics of whether it meets the remaining criteria for the dock key location ordinance, whether or not a dock could be placed in that area. So specifically the distance between those docks, but the remaining authorized area would still be there.
Okay.
John, could you flip over to Little Bear and tell us exactly where those docks are going to be?
Sure thing. I'm trying to navigate both of these at the same time, so it's taking me sometimes a little while here. I've shown you right now the current actual plat that's being submitted. Currently, there is an existing dock located on 366, where that key location currently exists for number 35. That is being proposed to stretch further down its Penny Creek and to be giving the opportunity for lot number 477 to gain access to that same key location. So that's where it is on the actual plat. And if you recall on another exhibit here, just one second. This is that exhibit that the applicant has provided to kind of show the existing key location 35, where that dock, and Ray, you can actually speak to maybe what the actual location of where that dock would be presented, but I would imagine somewhere along this here that have gained access to the Penny Creek, just as the others to the north of that exist today.
Yes, what would happen, as John was saying, a new dock would be proposed for lot 477 Little Bear Way. You might say in the magenta looking zone adjacent to the where the length is being added. And another aspect of this is that 366 would now have the opportunity to permit a single dock on the southern shoreline of its shoreline, and it would cease to have access to the shared dock that was started, but we've abandoned the construction of that because of the change in the creek bottom, and thus that lot would have the opportunity to situate a much shorter dock in deeper water on the southern side, again, in that same magenta colored zone where the key location is being lengthened.
So that 549 feet consists of basically that whole line after the right angle turn.
Correct.
The magenta part, yeah.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Capelli?
Yeah, but I thought Ray said they're already developed or being developed.
Lot 366 was already developed, platted, and sold. The lots on Little Bear Way, we've obviously built the road, we've platted the right of way, but we've not actually subdivided the 3 lots. This area was previously that is the island for Little Bear Way. It was previously approved for the same 3 lots. It's just that with this preliminary plat, of course, it has the note about the key location.
I thought well, John, go back, if you could, go back to that other slide. No, 35, yeah. I thought you said there were key locations up in here. Or docks up in here.
Where's here?
Yeah, we're.
I'm
There's
sorry. Looks
there's
like- Go ahead.
there's an existing shared dock that I think Mr. Pantlick is referencing here.
Yeah.
And that would be split, and Ray, chime in if I steer this on the future plans for this, but this would be now become a single use dock, and another dock would be proposed further down south below that.
But that is previously a key location?
This 35 has always been a approved key location.
No, I'm sorry, you say the shared dock is on 35 or is it on the other side of 366?
35 is the actual key location, so that extends this full extent. That extends the full extent of the sort of western end of the island down here. So, I'll try to draw that again for you.
No, the upper part north of the shared dock is not being transferred as part of the 549. It's the lower part.
The 549 is coming from key location number 24 and added to key location 35. This exhibit right now is only showing key location number 35.
But Andy, to answer your question, Andy, the magenta color rather than the red color is existing, and then the magenta that goes off at a 90-degree angle, that's the 549 feet.
Okay.
Yep.
John, I would suggest maybe if you look at the plat for all of Phase 8A, I can maybe better describe the dock permitting situation there.
Is that right there sufficient?
That is. So there are at present 3 shared docks that have been permitted. You might notice where it says the 20-foot shared dock easement. There's 374, 376 at the north, 372 and 370. That's the dock that shows up on the aerial image that we were just looking at. And there is another shared dock that's been permitted for 366 and 368. It's been partially constructed, but what we found was over the years since the dock was permitted, the creek has shoaled immediately in that vicinity, and it's made it, I guess, unusable as a shared dock for both lots. And so what's being proposed in part by this preliminary plat would be to ultimately extinguish the shared dock that's permitted for 366, and a new dock would be permitted on 366, but it would be along the southern shoreline where the creek now sweeps in. And then, of course, the other new lot, 477, would have a separate single dock as well.
So 368 would lose the dock?
No, the dock would remain in place, but it would be for the sole use of 368. The owner of 366 would extinguish any rights, and part of the dock would be demolished that was going to be the part that he would have exclusive use of. And then a new dock, if you see where the word marsh is, would be permitted and constructed in the vicinity of that word. And then if you continuing to look at the same plat, you know, where the letter, where it says phase 8B in that vicinity is where lot 477 is for Little Bear Way. And it would, there'd be a new single dock proposed for it.
Right.
Does everyone understand what Ray is proposing here?
Now we do.
Yes.
Okay. John, do you have anything more to add to this presentation?
That was all for this particular application.
Okay, well, why don't we have a motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plat of Little Bear lots 474, 476, 477, and lot 366 is at the movement of the 549 linear feet of key location. So if we could have a motion to do that.
One motion or two?
It's all on one plat, Andy. I guess we just do one.
That's fine. So moved.
Second.
I'll second it. Oh, whatever.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any more comments or questions about this proposal? Hearing none. Petra, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Dowdy,
Aye.
Mr. Capelli,
Aye.
Mr. Iwan,
Aye.
Mr. Moffett,
Aye.
Ms. Messerman,
Aye.
Mr. Stinson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, folks. Item 6 on the agenda is correspondence and staff comments. John, do you have anything for us?
Yes, I sent you all just an update regarding things that have sort of transpired in the last month. I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of what Town Council has been doing regarding the efforts in response to COVID-19 outbreak. And so I just ask that you pay attention to those updates. Town Council had another special meeting today. And so those will continue to unfold as we learn more information. And that also included restrictions to the short-term rental for the island. And so I just ask you to just stay tuned with those continual communications from the town, because those are pretty fluid as we unfold new information and details. The Parkway improvement project continues to still be underway. Regarding zoning specific for our review this month, well, dating back between February and April, we were up to 33 zoning permits. And if you paid attention to the fire station happenings, they have demolished Station 4 along the parkway. And so they are getting ready to start that work for Station 4, as Station 6 just had their grand opening on Governors at the end of February. And so the other projects I wanted to give you updates on are regarding the resort, the cottages on the ocean course. Those have begun work as well. And so we although we're sort of in a state of social distancing, we're still receiving permits and still getting updates from different projects on the island. That's pretty much it. Look for some more information regarding this comprehensive plan review. We might, just depending on how the timeline and where we are at the state now, and of whether or not it's going to be adjusted is still to be determined. So just pay attention to those updates that may come sooner or later, rather. That's all I have, Mr. Peterson. There aren't any right now trainings that are on my radar for this month, but I will keep you updated, as I always do, regarding any continuing ed trainings.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.
In your summary, you mentioned the Dune side.
Yes, I did skip that. Okay, so Dune side, I wanted to also update you on that. That work is continuing to be had down on Dune side, which includes the speed tables and all of the improvement projects that were on set as a result of the parcel 13 development and the connection of Southern Pines Lane to Dune side. And so that work is still being done. Kika has shared that they had some minor delays in their materials for the speed tables, and that would probably onset either this week or next week for them to continue that work. Currently now there are some, as the road was repaved down that area, the actual bollards were removed to do that work, but there's temporary traffic barricades now in place to prevent vehicle traffic from going back and forth in that area. So if you do hear from any residents or anything of that nature, that's kind of the state down there in Dune side. I don't know if you want to add anything, Ray, to that, those updates.
Only to add that once the town once Kika has completed the improvements, the town has made an inspection. Of course, the traffic barrels would be removed, and we would replace those west of the Timbers entrance, but still block it off so that there's obviously no connection between Cape Point Road and Duneside.
Is there any progress on the pedestrian paths and around the pool area and that kind of thing?
Yes, the pathways are pretty much complete. I think the last big step is the raised crosswalks, which are being done with concrete, and they're getting a special admixture for that.
Good, good.
Okay, great.
Ray, at some point, are we gonna, well, I guess, John, the question, at some point, are we gonna see the site plan for 13A? I know you have the ability to approve it, but since it's tied into that whole area down there, is there any way we can get?
Sure, I can share that information with you all. That's pretty much just almost in an approval state. There's a few final details we were working out with the owners on that one, developers, and so that I can definitely share that that site development plans with you.
13A is basically the east-west plan?
The East-West Partners, their multifamily development, right? Correct. Yeah.
That would be good to see, yeah.
Good. Thank you, John. Let's see, our council liaison is not present, so we won't have any comments from him. We have no method to have public comments, do we, Stephanie? Okay. Commissioner.
Public comments, sorry, Mr. Peterson, public comments are being submitted to Petra.
Yes, ma'am.
Petra, if you'd like to send if there are any, to Mr. Peterson via the chat, that now would be the time to do so.
There has been none,
Okay.
with the exception of the one that you answered for Mr. King.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I guess we can do commissioner comments. Why don't we start with you, John Moffett? Any comments?
I don't have any comments.
Ms. Messerman, any comments?
I don't.
Okay, Larry Iwan, any comments?
No comments.
Mr. Capelli, comments?
I'd disappoint you if I didn't have one. But really,
Are you at 38 Marsh Edge Lane?
John, what was wrong with the Station 4?
What was wrong with it?
Yeah.
I think the fire department has moved to upgrade all the facilities under St. John's, and so they are the building that's proposed there is actually going to be sort of mirrored what's existing now on Station 6 site, and so it's really to upgrade the facilities and allow the appropriate equipment and apparatus that they need for the area.
Yeah, just curious because of the tax increase last year has to be spent somewhere. So they went ahead and built another Taj Mahal.
Thank you, Mr. Capelli. Mr. Dowdy, any questions or comments?
No comments. Thank you.
How about you, Britt Stenson? Any
I'm
comments?
good, thank you, nothing.
Okay, I have no comments. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second.
And seconded by Mr. Dowdy. All those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned.